we started building the next game that was going to be in the Unreal franchise, and started developing assets for it, built some characters, some environments, some world pieces, and eventually we ended up switching over from the base engine Unreal Engine 2 to Unreal Engine 3, which was like the next generation of technology. And we had all those assets left over and didn't really know what to do with them, and we didn't want to just throw away years worth of work. So we actually ended up using those assets to build Unreal Tournament 2004, and that was a whole separate game. And the ideas and concepts from that base game that we had started on, we actually rolled over onto the next generation engine, which was Unreal Engine 3, and started a game which then was called Warfare, but eventually became known as Gears of War.
It's interesting because the game industry is kind of like a balloon. You've got the audience who is kind of ever growing and expanding, pushing from the inside, making that thing bigger. If the kind of desires of the audience drive the product, that balloon's going to pop, right? Because you don't have that nice dynamic tension between developers trying to stay true to their craft, really honing the aspects of the products that the actual people that are enjoying them really love. And so you need that pressure from both sides to make sure that you have the audience, crying out for the next big great thing, but the developers saying, okay, I understand what you're asking for, let me take that and hone it and craft it. And that slow, constant expansion of the industry is probably the healthiest way that it moves forward, because you get both sides of that equation.
I think if you're looking at the original games such as Pac-Man, the intermissions, the cutscenes were basically there to kind of give the player a break and to kind of, I think, get an idea of this chase that's going on between the Ghost and between Pac-Man. Now video games have advanced so much. Now you've got a lot of story, you have backstory, you have motivations for the players through the cinematics. When I got into working in this business about 8 years ago, cinematics seemed to be nothing but objective movies to try and get the player to understand what they're going to do next. But now we're starting to get much broader stories and intertwined storylines between the gameplay and the cinematics themselves. That's becoming like this movie experience that you're a part of.
Epic got started as a one-man indie team. Really, it was Tim Sweeney developing ZZT, and gradually built up into, much larger teams. But then again, we've kind of also got smaller teams now too. And so I think the interesting thing is, I think what you're seeing in the mobile game marketplace is kind of a parallel of what happened in the PC and console game marketplace, whereas people start out with very small teams. There are games out there on iOS and Android that are made by one person working for a couple of months in his garage. And the cool thing is, even today that one man can do so much more. We look at Unreal Engine 4, and we have one of our artists here, and he's tasked with making all kinds of fun little indie games to test out the engine capabilities, to make sure that it can do certain things, to push it in certain directions. And he just pushes out all these cool little games. We don't ship them, they're just research. But it really is the recreation of that one-man indie. And when you look, you go back and you look at Tim Sweeney's first game, which was a character-driven adventure game, and you look and see what Shane Call, our technical artist, as one person now is doing with Unreal Engine 4. It's just an unbelievable progression, and it's really exciting to see that. In addition, that same technology in the hands of large teams, potentially hundreds of developers, are just producing unbelievable results. So it's just really exciting to see the technology and the industry mature, but in many ways there are still the ability for it to be small and fun and personal for independent developers.